Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ and Sons and our NCAA 25 Dynasty as we are starting out here with the Mean Green. And this is going to be actually our off-season episode. We were getting ready to show the bowl game, the First Responders Bowl against UTSA that we got invited to. However, it just didn't work out that way. There's a corruption in the file, so I'm not able to show it to you. However, it did go about like you would expect, much like it did in the regular season. It was a 27-10 victory. Nothing too special about it, but a good way to finish off the season. Now we're just looking at some highlights as we get kind of set up for the off season. Some of these players you are going to see making appearances throughout the next year, but overall, I think we had a pretty decent year, finishing off really at 10-3 after the bowl game, which you'd say is a pretty good year in reality. However, we had such a hot start coming off 4-0, beating Tech, a big upset over there in Lubbock. Then we come back and we start our conference play, and that's kind of when things started to go a little haywire, to say the least. And, those were teams that know us the best, so you can kind of expect things like that to happen every now and then, right? Tulsa really put a beat down on us. Same thing with East Carolina. I mean, it's one of those, what are you going to do in some of those situations? I mean, you've done all you can do, nothing works those days. Just sometimes nothing does work for you. Other days you have times like where you have your senior receiver Damon Ward making these contested catches in the end zone. It's football. It can be a crazy sport at times. Like I said, some bounces go your way, some don't. Some catches happen, some get dropped. That's just kind of the way of the world, especially when it comes to college football here. So, Tulsa, East Carolina, and then Memphis. I mean, you go 6 overtimes on the road in a Saturday night primetime game, and you end up losing. It's one of those, that's a tough pill to swallow. So, 3 conference losses. We finished the season at 9-3, 5-3 within the conference, 9-3 overall. Going to the bowl game against UTSA, as we see some of these highlights here. About as expected, a 27-10 victory. And things, are looking pretty positive for us right now. So we still got some areas to improve. We got some seniors leaving. Ward is leaving. Morris here is leaving. Now we do have a 4-star quarterback coming in, Wilkes. So he's definitely most likely going to take over the starting reins immediately. I don't know if I'm going to redshirt him. We'll have to kind of look. I want to see where he does fall on the depth chart compared to the others. And if he's high enough up, and he's high enough overall over Chamberlain, I think, is our backup, then, yeah, we're going to go ahead and I'm probably going to go ahead and just start him out immediately. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes off. Ragsdale, at running back position, he's going to be an interesting one to watch because we also got Zach Evans, back there. And these are 2 guys who right now do a great job playing off each other. Ragsdale more being the elusive kind of back, and then Evans being the power back. And so the running back situation is going to be a little different. We got Rugamba coming in because we did get him signed. He was one of our first prospects that we did sign, a 3-star running back. So he probably definitely will be redshirted most likely. I don't see him coming up and starting out immediately. We got some definite areas to build on, but I think we have a pretty solid foundation. And with the season that we did have coming into next year, I think as long as we can try to continue some success, kind of build on it a little bit, and I don't know if 9-3 or 10-3 is repeatable. I mean, don't get me wrong. It should be, but who knows how we make our schedule coming up and so forth. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to look at with a grain of salt, right? So we get some of these incoming players. We know things are going to be different, and we just want to see how things are going to change. Now, there is a coaching carousel. I'm looking at job offers. That there are some, and in reality, you can see Michigan State is offering a head coaching position. And that is very tempting to go up to the Big Ten in East Lansing. The only problem is I'm just not feeling like going up to East Lansing. I don't know. It's one of those, if I'm going to leave North Texas where we are actually building on top of something, am I really going to leave for a 3-star Big Ten team that's low 80s when you start looking at their rankings overall? They went 2-10. I have no impact on their recruiting whatsoever. So I don't know if that's really a viable option to kind of improve and build upon our career. Maybe we do need to have another year or two here at North Texas to kind of establish something and some consistency before we move on. But it is a very intriguing kind of offer to get. Now, we got a couple of coordinator spots, offensive coordinator from Arkansas and Illinois, and then defensive coordinator for Arizona State, which is a little odd. It just doesn't seem like something that I don't really want to go back to a coordinator position. Yeah, it's in a higher-up conference, with Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12. But going from a head coach to a coordinator is, in a sense, kind of a step back. I mean, I get it. It's really not. But at the same time, it kind of is. And so I'm definitely not going to take a step back. But in the end, I do decide to skip out on the Michigan State job. I just do. Couldn't take it. Couldn't bring myself to do it. Now, taking a look at how the playoffs ended up shaping out, Michigan repeats as national champion. That time beating Alabama, a rematch of the Rose Bowl from last season. So, hey, good for them. It is what it is. So now we come into the offseason recruiting. If you notice, we now have 750 hours. So way better than the, 500 or 600 we had before. So we definitely got a lot more. Now, here in the transfer portal is what we're going to be looking at. Some of these guys you're not going to get, just you got a feeling. But some of them you kind of hope to, and I think in the transfer portal we can start reaching out to some. But if you see where a lot of these guys are being looked at, especially when you start talking 4-star, 3-star, especially your 4-star kind of guys, you can cross your fingers and hope to get one, but odds of you actually snagging one are going to be pretty low, right? So we have selected a couple that we're looking at doing. Carmicka Glass coming in. He's going to be a quarterback. And I just want to see what we can get him going with. So we do offer him a scholarship, and we send the house. We need to get ourselves improvement on these. We are in the top 10 for some and top 5, but we're at the bottom of that area. So it's like Matthew Golden here. We are in his 5th. We're number 5, so we are going to be able to schedule a visit for him. Proximity home is what we do take a look at, and then we go ahead and send the house. There's going to be a couple different things that we have to try and figure out, but overall, I think we're going to be pretty solid. It's just trying to work this portal, knowing, hey, this is the program that we are, so we need to make sure that if we're going to go into the transfer portal, let's try not to battle with the Alabamas and the Texases. I mean, take their guys if you can, but let's try not to battle. Now, Tyler Keene was an interesting defensive tackle that we just looked at right there. I think his skills are going to translate a lot and fairly well into what we do. We're going to be switching over to run the 4-2-5. But a lot of that nickel that we use, the base pack, one of our packages for the nickel is going to require defensive tackles to be right over the nose, which he's got the capability for that. Same thing shooting off the guards. He's got the speed to power off those guys. Now, looking at what we need, offensive linemen are going to be a big deal. We know we need them. It's just whether or not we can get quality kind of guys. I don't want to just fill in 1-stars because we have to, or even 2-stars because we have to. Let's get the quality kind of players that we can look at and actually see about bringing them in. So I do go back to the transfer portal to start looking at these guys, and one of them is going to be a 2-star guy. It's not looking very good on the offensive line coming from the transfer portal. So it's hard for me to want to bring in some of these dudes that are 2-stars that, one, are coming from New Mexico State or Colorado State, because you don't have a whole lot going for you in reality. So what are you really going to bring to my school? You know what I mean? Along with Tyler Keene there at second, we do have some other players that we have to look at, and that's really going to be in the defensive backfield. Braxton Myers, a 3-star defense cornerback out of Southern Miss. These are guys who can be impact players. Now, depending on what their ratings are in a lot of these realms, take it with a grain of salt. But, we have to see first. So we're going to take a look at Braxton Myers. Change of direction, 90. Acceleration, 94. That's a pretty decent little set of numbers that he's got for himself right there. So we are going to go ahead and offer him a scholarship and send the house at him. Now, I do have 65 points or minutes per player, or I guess hours per player, so I do actually max that up. I'm not going to just send the 50 coming in with these 3-star recruits. I want to try to get them as much attention as I can so we can actually get them to come over to our school. So same thing with J.D. Drew, another cornerback coming to us from the transfer portal, at least that we're trying to get to come to us from the transfer portal. So we do power home with the time for him. And it's really just trying to fill in the rest of our needs. The one thing is a lot of these guys are probably going to be pretty close to being starters on our team, if not already starting by the time they get over here. So it's one of these situations. Let's take a look at what they do have. Like Jamarian Peterson, playing style is the deal breaker. The way we do play, I do like it. And in reality, our playing style also is the defense is going to have to be on the field. So they are going to be out there for quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? Trey Feet, or Fite, or Fight, we're going to put just 50 points on them. I want to see what kind of impact we do have on these guys, because these are transfers, right? So there are a bunch of other schools going after them. Now, yeah, we finished 10-3 on the season, but we didn't win our conference. We didn't even go to the conference championship game. You know what I mean? So taking a look after the first week of recruiting, we didn't have any additional guys come on, which makes me pretty nervous. So coming up into, week 2, I'm not seeing a whole lot of these guys just suddenly joining in. Now, I forgot I do have these points that I got to spend on all our previous other recruits that I had kind of forgot about. So that's kind of my mistake there. Trust me, I won't let that happen again. But plus, we have a finite amount of points. I need to spend it on people who are truly interested and are going to come to us. Glass, you'll notice we are now first on his board. Same thing with Golden, Keene, Myers. All these guys we've moved up into first on them. So something like that is definitely, I'm not going to say an advantage, but definitely something I want to see to keep kind of putting hours into these kids is got to see the payoff. And Tyler Keene, it does. J.D. Drew was first. Fight, we are also first as well. And some of these, it's just because, one, they weren't getting scholarship offers, so I know we've moved up into first, but they haven't accepted it. They haven't committed to us. So there's other teams that can come in and swoop in. I understand that, so I try to hit them as hard as we can with as many points as we can early on so we can try to get as many of these guys. It's 35 scholarships that you can have. I fully understand we're not going to get 35 scholarships this first go-around. Like I said, as good of a season as we had, it wasn't the great season. It wasn't a championship season. It's something that, yeah, we're improved. We're going to be improved, but we're not going to get 35 scholarships. Let's just face facts here, okay? We're definitely not doing that. Now, we get some of those visits scheduled for these guys that we need to. Leaves us with 105 hours left. Raymond Marshall, we do to go on ahead and start changing up some of these. We start looking at the hard sells and the soft sells. How can we get these things matched up? Because you get 3 different little opportunities here. And this one actually just matches up perfectly for the pitch strategy. It's game time. It hits all the highest ratings that we do have, which proximity to home for the Marshall was an A, but everything else was a B or B minus. But it's what's value to him. So it actually does work for us and hits all of those up. Kenyon Pope, our punter. You may think, who cares about a punter? Well, I can tell you this, I do. So, we do put some points into him. Now, Raymond Marshall does commit over to us. Golden does not. Can't be too surprised either. Like I said, sometimes guys stay, sometimes they go. Now, he committed over to SMU, which they are now in the ACC, so it's not surprising somebody would pick the ACC over the American Conference. And so that's one of those things, even when competing with, we think, big schools, ACC, Florida State, and all that. No, SMU's in the ACC now, so we gotta compete with them. Brian Greer, we finally get to be able to schedule a visit with him. He's a good outside linebacker. He's got speed. He's got strength. He's got everything we really need. It's just we need to get him to come to our school. That's the only difference. Matthew Golden, get out of here. Get off our board. We don't want you if you don't want us. John Vega, 3-star wide receiver. We are first on his board. He still hasn't even narrowed down to the top 3. Starting to piss me off, if you want me to be honest with you. I expect him to already be down to the top 3. Now, I know receivers are something that are needed, so I do want to take a look at them just once more. These are all the guys that had us on their board. However, we need 3-star guys for us to compete. Once again, I'm perfectly resigned to we're not getting the 5 stars. I could go through and pull like the 5-star, 5-star cheese, as you can hear it referred to. Find ones that don't have a scholarship offer and just hit the scholarship and hammer them. Next thing you know, you pull in a 5-star. You know, I'm just saying, I don't. That's not going to work. It would never work in real life. So we're going to go after guys that really, I think, North Texas would be able to get, and that's some of these 3-star guys. You notice we're not getting all. We're trying to get all 3 stars. I'm trying, but we're going to have to at some point go down to some 2 stars. Now, we did add on an additional wide receiver. And what I'm doing right here is just making sure that there's no conflict with the deal breaker. Because there are times if one person's deal breaker is playing time and you bring in someone else of the same position of, I guess, similar talent, you'll see that little deal breaker right there next to Kanoko go bright red. Because it's saying, hey, you've kind of screwed yourself out of that. You no longer have a deal breaker in this situation. So it is one of those things that we got to keep a watch on, and we got to be careful of going forward, just because you don't want to run into something where you lose a good talent just because you need to try to build in some depth. You know what I mean? So we get him offered, and we decide to send the house on him. We got 65 hours to spend on him. However, we only have 210 hours remaining. And in reality, I don't want to let that shit go to waste. So just start kind of adding them in. Now, CJ Turner is going to be a strong safety. We look to bring in good play recognition, 89 speed, which we had some problem in our safety area with the D-ball this season. It did kind of hamper us. So I think getting someone with 89 speed to start, he's just a freshman transfer, so he's got time to develop. It's not something where he's a senior and he's got 1 year left and one shot to make it, So we've got some time with him if we can get him to come here to Denton. It's just whether or not we can actually pull that off. Now, pro potential being C-, I hated seeing that, but nothing really matched up. That gave us the most things with the highest rating to go with. Now, Tyler Keene, Braxton Myers. We're starting to get some of these recruits falling our way. J.D. Drew. Brian Greer comes in as well. Kenyon Pope, our punter. And I have a feeling we're going to need him. Canonico comes in, and let's take a look at our recruiting class as we are done for the year, or for the off season, because that's pretty much all we had. We did bring in 16 recruits. We had to take in 1 2-star, but we also got the 4-star quarterback and Wilkes. So we definitely got some potential for improvement, which is all you can really ask for. It's just whether or not we can play to our level and actually above our level. So that's going to take us here into the preseason of the next year. We need to take a look at what our schedule is going to be. And right now our overall has jumped up to an 81. We are now a 2.5-star team. 81 overall, 80 on offense, 82 on defense. That's actually a pretty big jump from where we were being in the upper 70s last season. So I think, fairly big jump. Pat ourselves on the back for it. Now, I want to look at making a tougher schedule. I don't think we can just have it be, hey, let's take on some cupcakes and let's move on. One, I'm trying to get my coach built up. Let's take him to new levels. You got to play harder teams. Texas, after last season, didn't have the greatest season in the world, so their preseason ranking is only going to be 25, which does mean there's a potential chance for an upset, I think, going into Austin. You may not think it's realistic, but I do. There's a potential chance for it, and I think we should explore that. So I do put Texas on the week 1, and then obviously kind of a recovery game. Let's take on the Pandas. Let's have them come to Denton out of Fairbairn and kind of relax ourselves, even though those games are never that relaxing. All right. So coming after that, I wanted to put SMU on our schedule because it is a rivalry game. It's just since they moved to the ACC, we're not going to play them. We haven't played them this year or this last season. So we do put them on the schedule for this season. Now, SMU being a decent team, I want to have another harsh team that we go into a big environment on, and that's going to be Ohio State. Do I think we're going to upset them? No. But I think our players are going to be better off for it. You put them in those environments and they perform even semi-decent, man, that just sets you up for the rest of the way. You know what I'm saying? So that's really the theory behind scheduling them. Now, looking after that, we go straight into conference play, and we have got 8 weeks of straight conference play. It's Texas, Pandas, bye week, SMU, Ohio State, bye week, then 8 straight weeks of conference play. So the season's going to be a little bit tough for our guys. I'll just say that. And it's definitely going to be a little bit tough. Now, let's take a look at recruiting. Let's start thinking about how we're going to manage that. And we'll take a deeper look at it. I just want to kind of go over and let's take a look at some of these recruits that we are going to be spotlighting. And then we'll see about taking a look at our roster and everything before we go into the next episode and take on the Longhorns in Austin. Our front 7, we need everybody. Like there's needs in the front 7 all across our damn board. Same thing when it comes to the offensive line. The offensive line, we need just about everybody. We got lots of needs here, and we need to get them taken care of. Mateo Gutierrez, a 4-star. We are 10th. Proximity to home is his deal breaker. He's from Crosby, Texas. Once again, 4-star athlete. You got Texas, Texas Tech, A&M, Oklahoma. They're going to be tough to bring in, but I think it's worth it with the deal breaker that we got going in our favor. You know what I'm saying? I do definitely think it's worth it on that one. But trying to fill out the rest, I really don't want to push my luck on a lot of these guys, but I am. If I have a deal breaker on these 4 stars or 3 stars, I think these are the best ones to take a shot with, if we can. Now, once again, I don't want to piss any of them off. Let's not screw up any deal breakers that there are just because we can. Let's be smart about it. So now we're going to move over onto the defensive side. Gil Stewart, a 4-star defensive end. He's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Proximity to home is an A. And in reality, Denton is not all that far from Tulsa. Just a good couple hours, I think. Never went to Tulsa when I lived there. I was going to school at North Texas. But, we'll see. Now, on the defensive line, Calvin Gaydosh, deal breaker, proximity to home. He is out of El Paso, Texas. Of course, in the state of Texas, that's pretty far away. But, hey, it is within our pipeline state. And in reality, the Longhorns ain't got their hooks in them, so we're going to take a shot. Once again, that's a 4-star guy. We're taking a shot. Sometimes you have to do that. Here's another one in the outside linebacker, J.J. Brazil. But he's out of Nashville, Tennessee, which I don't know why we have a proximity to home of B-. But we are 9th on his board. So who would I be to deny him an opportunity to come here? Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, don't get me wrong, because he's not going to sign with me, but still. So got to be smart about it, you know what I'm saying? Sticking on the defensive side, looking at the linebackers, like I said, our whole front seven is wonky right now, and we are having guys leave and graduate fairly rapidly. So, I mean, I think each year we're losing maybe at least 2 guys in those positions. So we've got to really backfill it. But once again, I don't want to just build depth for depth's sake. I want them to be useful. I want them to be decent players. That's what we have to do. Tyler Punga, 4-star deep cornerback. We're 7th on his board. I just don't see him with what that deal breaker was, coach prestige and all that. I don't get that one, why we would be a B. I mean, granted, we had a good season. Maybe after 2 straight good seasons, I could see that having an effect. I just don't think it really would right now. So 625 hours is what we are going to get during the season, it appears. So it is an improvement from the last year, right? It's not as much as the 700-something hours that we had during the transfer portal days, but it's still a decent amount of time. And I think that as long as we are very pinpointed with who we recruit, I think we'll be able to be fine with it and kind of get some of the different spots filled that we actually need people to fill. One of those is going to be running back position, right? Kashama is up there at the top. Farrell is up there at the top. You know, Farrell's an athlete. Nane's up at the top. He's a power back. These are guys that we can do something with. Now, they are going to have to split time, so none of their deal breakers, thank God, are playing time. But that's just something to look at. Now, we will get past that off-season recruiting, so you can kind of take a look at where we are at. We do have 16 recruits on our board. Mateo Gutierrez is going to be the first one. We are number 1 on his board. Chavez, we've moved up, but the Longhorns are holding steady, which I guess I can't really blame them for. Carthage, Texas. Good old Texas boy, probably going to go with the Longhorns. Duke Loan out of El Paso. We have dropped. I didn't have enough points at the time to spend. If you see, I only have 15 hours, so not points, 15 hours. So Loan only got the text of the friend or contact friend and family. So we didn't have enough to spend all these points on them. So we did drop a little bit. Calvin Gaydosh staying at the top. I do enjoy seeing that, especially with a 4-star defensive tackle and us being first on his board. Taking a look at it, block shedding 74, strength 90, tackle 85. Play recognition is an 80, but his awareness is a 68. I think those two should go together. I'm not sure why they don't, and there's such a wide gap, but this kid's got definite capability and definite talent, so it's something we are going to have to actually look at. George Martino, we have not scouted him at all, but I did offer him a scholarship. So, got that going for us. And we've got 15 points. So, based off just offering the scholarship and that's it, it's put us here in 4th behind UTEP. And then also, you got schools like Texas Tech on there. So, that's just one of those things that's going to be a little disconcerting, especially when you're a school of our size, trying to get some of these guys like you see them. Now, we are well above them. So, also, especially for Nico and Ellie, we're well above Tech and all them. It's just one of those. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. You know what I'm saying? So, some of these other guys that you're seeing looking at right now, Spencer, Tobias, and so forth. We added them on late. Just wanted to kind of see what we could get in. You know what I mean? Let's see who we can put on here. And some of those guys, I realized by the time we have so many that we ran out of recruiting hours. So it's going to be tough. We're going to have to kick some of them out before we bring some others in. It's just the way it's going to have to go right now for us. So let's take a look at our depth chart. Mr. Tony Wilkes, freshman quarterback. He's a 78 overall. Chamberlain, our senior, is a 73. But I think Wilkes is going to be our guy, so I do put him in there. Ragsdale coming into his senior season. I think he is poised. He's got capability. It's just one of these things. We're going to have to use him the right way, especially with his overall being essentially as low as it was. Now, surprise here is Landon Sides. He was our number 2 receiver last season. He comes in staying at number 2 as, you know, Cortez gets above him, and then also DT Sheffield swoops into the 3rd slot spot. I think we're going to be able to use his speed quite a bit. You saw him on the kickoff return for a touchdown against Army in the highlights at the beginning, so he's got a lot of capability. The offensive line is going to be a problem. I have no doubt about that. It still is going to be an issue. It has improved. Don't get me wrong. It has definitely improved, but it is something that is still going to be an issue for us. And I think we really have to kind of evaluate how do we get some of these guys brought up? How do we get some of them developed so we can have an actual offensive line that blocks? You know, we're going to have to see. Mercer, a redshirt freshman, will be taking over the starting center spot. He's probably going to struggle this year. We're going to have to get off a lot of quick passes. Maybe not run up the middle so much, instead go outside. You know, the linemen, outside the numbers. We're going to have to figure something out, be a little bit creative with our offense to try to make this thing work. On the defensive side, the front seven's going to be a slight struggle. Keith Smith coming in at 74 overall, and Tyler Keene are right there. Keene being our senior, they're both at 74. Smith, though, I like his speed, his agility, change of direction, his strength. Keene's got the awareness on him, so hopefully both of these guys are out there on the field together more often than not, because that's going to really help us out on that defensive line. Coming in at the linebacker spot, Woodyard on the left side. Callaway, he's been with us. He started with us all last season. And then we also have Weslowski on the right side. 77 overall. Now, what's funny is taking a look at Homewood. Homewood, if you put him on the left side, he's at a 76. But on the right side, he's at an 81. So I am going to switch him and Weslowski off because I think Homewood just works out better there. Now coming to this side, Weslowski 77 overall. I'm not going to move him up. It's one of those. This is how it's going to have to be. Our starting defensive backs. Taylor Starling will be there at an 84 overall. So we've got some ways to go with him. He's got a lot of speed. He's 97 speed, but it's going to be tough. You know, it just is. We got a pretty good start. Starting safety, 79. Once again, got to watch out. Probably going to get burned over the top a little bit, but we're going to have to take our licks and just kind of bounce back from it. That's the only thing that we can do and continue on in this round. Now, Naguma is going to be our kicker. He's a 85 power, 74 accuracy. My God, Bradley Ford is a 65 accuracy, and he's the one who sucked for us last season. Thank God we got a new one. I'm just happy about that. So that is going to be our team and set us up for the next season. And that'll start in the next episode on the road in Austin, everybody. I will see y'all there.